Welcome. I am Stephen Fox, and I am making comics.
Hey, welcome back to Making Comics XL. I'm Steve Fox. This is episode 5. The first 4 episodes, I did it kind of topically, but I'm going to shift that for a lot of different reasons I'm about to get into. This particular video will be a little bit about being productive despite anxiety or discouragement. I'm gonna approach it a little bit differently. It's gonna be more a kind of update as opposed to a specific topic. I guess it started back in March. I got a new job. The long and short of it is I have been working from home, but with a new job I want to make sure that I do really well. I would say 8 weeks out of the last 4 months I have worked a lot extra. One, trying to get up to speed, and above all just to impress my employer, because I want to do well just like any of us. So that kind of led to a little bit of overload because I'm never just working on my job. I always have some side thing that I'm trying to do. And beginning of March, the side thing was trying to build an audience so that when I published Excel, there would be people that had interest in it. So my Instagram feed, I was posting a few times a week, doing my best to make them worthwhile. And YouTube, I was posting a video about once every 3 weeks, maybe once a month. And that doesn't sound like a lot, but I put together 4 videos and spent 10 to 20 hours editing each of them. And ultimately, like, the result wasn't super professional anyway, because I'm not a video editor. It looks all right. I'm proud of it for me, you know. But the point I'm getting to is between putting in a minimum of 50 hours a week, and then some weeks 60 hours a week, and then on top of that trying to be a reasonable dad and husband, and then working on the YouTube videos and creating new art for Instagram and all that. It was just getting to me. I was missing sleep. I was getting behind on sleep, which was making me less productive, and I kept pouring hours into these things, but the hours were just not high yield. So like, it would take me twice as long, even though I was working as hard as I could, because I was mentally so fatigued. So in the middle of that, I posted a few drawings, and a lot of things were happening. If you're an artist, you know that not every piece you do is going to be awesome, especially when you're experimenting. I really wanted to improve my artistic abilities, you know what I mean? The problem is, man, the more intentional I am about this stuff, the less confidence I have, because if I go through my feed here, like Color Reaper, holy crap, this guy's always amazing. He has this really cool, energetic, simple style. I mean, just look at this. Look at the design there, you know? And this guy has some really funky designs. They're really cool. But everybody has something I want to emulate, and everybody is doing something so much better than me. Like this guy, look at that. I mean, so it's really easy. Like, you've got to have a reference. You have to have somebody you aspire to that you're inspired by, you know. But it's just so hard not to get discouraged when you see the artistry that's out there. So I was kind of wrestling with that a little bit, and especially when I got those negative comments, it knocked me down a peg or two. But if we go to my actual profile, the things that I've been trying to do, so I was just trying to get back to things I loved, like in comics. I've never actually been a big Lobo fan, but I thought it'd be fun to draw. And when he was in the Superman animated series, I loved that. I thought he was a cool foil for Superman. So I drew him, and it's cool. This was not actually the first try, but what happens is when you experiment and you're trying to improve, you inevitably make mistakes, and if you don't, then you're not pushing, really. And this one in particular, if you look at it, there are a couple of things. This layout I really like. It's got a good gesture to it. It's got a nice relaxed flow. I experimented. I thought it'd be funny to give him cat ears, and that was a bad idea. So I tried to correct those, but in the sketch it's not super obvious. He has a weak chin also that I didn't really care for. It doesn't look as bad in retrospect, to be honest. I like the drawing a lot more than I did. So, but you can see I strengthened his chin, worked with the colors to make a more traditional Lobo. But there were flaws, you know. And then this Superman, I had this design in my head, and I really love the design. The yellow lining on the cape I really dig, and I just thought it was fun. It unifies, you know, with the rest of the costume. One of the things I hate about the New 52 is kind of the priest color that he had. So I did like it as a design element, and I like the shield being an anchor for the cape. I think it makes it very regal and strong looking. I also like the tapered edges, but I didn't like the missing trunks because I feel like he needs the red is an anchor color, and having that anchor color in the center I think is pretty critical. But I gave him a little slightly chunkier boots. Overall, I love the design except for the face. The face is just really too cartoony and simple for this body. It's not that the body is hyper realistic. It has its flaws too, like it lacks symmetry here on the ribs, and a couple of other minor things, like where is this muscle terminating? That's not correct. But you know, I posted it because it was like I'm trying to get faster, because that's critical if I want to maintain a comic, and I want to, you know, all that different stuff. So, but when somebody criticizes you, all of these little errors that you notice in your own work start coming through. Like here, this Superman, his belt is off center. You know what I mean? So it messes with. Every time I look at it, I see that belt buckle being off. And you know, but there were some high points too. Like I really loved this Darkseid. Darkseid, I think, is just a magnificent villain. The background's a little abstract. I didn't spend a lot of time on it, but as far as the figure and his presence, I really like it. It's a simple kind of design. Actually, the composition reminds me a little bit of Michael Turner, in the fact that he didn't focus so much on doing complicated layouts. He just did impactful layouts. Another one I liked, but man, it has a lot of flaws, was this drawing. You know what I mean? Like these yellow lines are dark, and they're the wrong color to be interacting with this fire. You know, there's a lot of stuff. This is a very square looking hand. It's not necessarily wrong. It could be attributed to style, but I would redraw that. But and his nose, the way it sits on his glasses, is all messed up. So it's like, and I'm not trying to be hard on myself, but if you draw, you spend an intimate amount of time and an inordinate amount of time on these things, and you're like, huh, wow, that stinks that I sent that out there with a big mistake. You know what I mean? This is another one. I actually really like this one. So that's a Wolverine that I did. I just kind of dig it. So that was me taking my time a little bit more. It has some energy, a little bit of Roger Cruz inspiration for the blockiness. Anyway, so that's me. That was me kind of push myself artistically. There were some failures and there were some positives. You know what I mean? If you have any interest, I'm also Fox Storytelling over on Instagram. So that's what I was doing as far as the drawing side of things. You know. I also I got to do something really cool. I worked with a guy, he calls himself Drawing Dot Conversation on YouTube and Instagram. We did this cool Superman jam where we just drew our favorite pieces from the recent or ancient history Superman stories, you know. This Doomsday is Mine. I was really proud of that. So anyway, but then this Superman face is kind of jacked up. So just because it has so much of the highlight on it, it doesn't, you know, but it's not bad. It's just not, every time I look at it, I'm like, I wish I'd done that a little different. But that video will be coming out, I believe, the first Friday in August. So I'll keep you guys updated, and I might add Danny's video trailer to the back of this if he's okay with that, just to promote him a little bit, because he's a really good guy. So artistically, that's what I've been doing, trying to just get better there. In addition, another step that I do, so I'm at that point where I'm trying to figure out, okay, I've got this story in mind outlined. I'm going to start writing it pretty soon. I've actually already started writing it, but when I began this next phase. That's what was going on. So something that helps me is to have a pitch packet, and that's a combination of things. Some people have in one sense it's a pitch packet because you're sending it. I could send this to potential publishers and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Do you have interest in publishing it? But it also serves as kind of something called a series Bible, where you are fleshing out the concept beyond the proposal. And I find that is even though I haven't sold anything big, the proposals I've put together usually get really positive feedback. So I'm applying that to this project, hoping that I can really impress some comic publishers, because I have a lot of background in graphic design and layout that a lot of comic guys don't. So I'm going to flex that advantage if I can. So here I've got a nice cover page. Excel, the first story is going to be called Communion because it has a lot to do with blood and relationships. And then here we're just have a nice index page. And just so you know too, this layout, it's not universal, but it will be if you ever want to pitch anything. This template is a pretty good foundation. So you got your title page or your front page, and then you've got your index page where you've got the location of everything and what to expect, and then premise. The idea with a proposal is you have to keep in mind people hate to read because it's a huge time dump. They do love to look at images, because that's like an instantaneous thing. So what I'm trying to do is populate unique illustrations subtly in the background while still providing some information, but you want to breadcrumb it. You start with the smallest amount of information you can, the premise, in just a few words. Ideally, this is one sentence, as streamlined as you can, that hits all of the things that make your story unique and compelling. Unique and compelling are the things to remember. You're going to hear from a lot of people, and I don't know. I'm not saying whether it's valid or not, because I don't know. I think it's in the eyes of the beholder. Some people tend to think, oh, it's like Futurama meets Berenstain Bears. It's like a lot of people feel like if you can compare it to something that's already a pop culture positive, then that's helpful in the pitch. I'm sure it can be. I don't like to do that because I really enjoy doing my best to come up with something wholly unique, and I know that that's not possible, but I just don't like comparing it to things that exist. So once you get into the premise, if they make it past that page, you have to assume, okay, they're interested. Then you go into the concept. This can be much longer. So far, I've only got placeholder here for the concept, but the concept, you can almost double the size. Really, you can fill this whole block here. I try to keep it half page most of the time for the concept, and then from the concept, you're going to want to get into, let's just go up here. Once I'm into the concept, I like to get into the characters, because before you find out every single thing that happens to them, you're going to want to know who they are. So here I have, this is what Arthur's page is going to look like. It's going to have, each character page is going to have a before and after kind of image, and it's going to be heavily illustrated since it's a comic, and get into the character details. And then from there, if we look back up here, we'll get into the story outline, and then breaking it down issue by issue, like what happens in the first 22 pages, 44, 66, so on. Marketing support, this is where I would mention, okay, I've been putting out YouTube channels, I've got this many subscribers that have interest, and I have this many people on Instagram and all that stuff. So these days, they call it your platform, the number of people that give a crap about what you're doing. It sucks, but that's really one of the defining things these days. I don't know so much with comics, but any other publishing venue, that's almost all they look at. If you look at modern book deals, who gets the deals? How many authors do you hear about that are just out of nowhere? Fiction has to be a little bit more reliant on that kind of talent that's specifically designed for writing. But other books, if you look at them, the novelty books or the best sellers right now are all from people that have quote-unquote platforms, a group of people that know they exist and care what they have to say. Kind of stinks because it narrows down those unique thoughts. So And then lastly, about the creator. I like to include that a little bit of a resume, a little bit of a biography, no more than 1 page. But they need to know that I'm someone that can produce in a predictable fashion. And I have some evidence to support that, so that's where I'll put that. And on top of it, so my goal is, when I'm ready to send this to publishers, is to export this as a PDF. I set it up as landscape because those are the proportions that of a typical monitor. So like most people that are going to be reviewing this thing are going to be on their computer or a tablet in landscape, and it's just a very easy way for them to review the materials. And then if they want to print them, you can always print landscape. By the end of the year, I would love to have 3 things. One is this proposal. I'd love to have it ready to ship out. 2, I would really like to have the first 4 issues at least partially written, with the first issue fully written, illustrated, and printed. So I'd like to print about 12 of them and send them out to the 12 publishers I've identified that I would really love to work with. And that's really the cool thing about this proposal is you think that it's strictly for pitching your book, but it really supports and fleshes out your world, because you have to make a lot of key decisions as you go. So as the weeks come, I will continue to show you my progress on the proposal. I write this in tandem with writing the script, which, speaking of the script, I've actually started on that. I'm on so I've got the first several scenes. I'm really excited about it. And it, I was talking about that first outline and how not to be beholden to it. And the first scene is totally different than what I had set out. So I'm excited, man. It feels like I pressed pause. But really, to have been as overwhelmed as I was, I'm pretty proud of myself for all the work that I've been able to get done with this. It hasn't been a pause moment for my productivity. It's just, everybody goes through discouragement. The way I handle it, when you are overwhelmed and you hear negative comments from naysayers, or even people who are trying to be kind to you, the biggest solution that I have is to take a breath, get some rest, and work on the one piece of it that feels like the easiest win. And the funny thing is, like, look at this stuff, man. My Instagram page, it's not a win, but I did something, you know what I mean? It's like, I've produced, since the last episode, I've produced all this artwork. It's pretty cool. And then I've also started on the proposal. Sorry, these are my dogs. All right, go on. And then I've written a significant amount of the first issue. So that's it. That's what I've been up to the last several weeks. It's been a little bit slower than it had been before, but life just kind of kicked me in the face, like it has all of us the last few months since March. So hopefully this is still a cool kind of peek into an independent guy working on his own comic. Let me know your thoughts, if this slight change in the way I'm doing things stinks, or if you kind of dug it. So the last thing I'd say is, if you're discouraged, just take a deep breath, man. You're not the only one. It's part of the journey. And really, if you're discouraged, then quit looking at everybody else, quit listening to everyone else, and do it for you. As hard as it is, like, a lot of times we can be looking for the wrong sort of gratification. We can be looking for the admiration of peers, or people that we wish were our peers. We can be hoping that it will be our new job. We can even be dreaming that we're going to create that next big concept, and it will be the thing that catapults us into a life of nothing but being creative. And the harsh reality is, all those are very unlikely. You have to do it for you. That's what I've discovered anyway. You have to do it because you can't do anything else. You can't stop. I've tried. Since I was 32, I have been off and on the whole writing and drawing and figuring out what I want to do, because at times it's not gratifying. At times it's humbling and humiliating, and other times I'm full of jealousy and all these negative emotions that I don't want. I've just found myself unhappy. And the vast majority of the time when I am unhappy in the creative process, it's not the creative process. It's why I'm doing it. It's that I've lost focus. So I would challenge you, man. Just take a deep breath and realize that if you really feel like you can't stop writing or drawing, then you just have to do it for yourself first and foremost. Kevin Smith said something. I'm not always a fan of his, but he said something during an interview. Essentially, he said, be sincere or do something sincere, and it will resonate with people. So that's what I'm trying to do. Excel is not the quote-unquote most clever marketable idea that I have. It's probably Fat Vampires or Deadweight. But it is the most sincere. It's the story that is deeply in my life. So anyway, thanks. Best of luck, and try not to be sad.